If there's one thing that comic books are known for, it's characters dying and coming back to life every 3 days. But if there's another thing that they're known for, it's time travel. Now, when you introduce time travel to a story, it has the potential to make things extremely complicated, with alternate timelines, paradoxes, and threatening the very fabric of reality itself. But thankfully, there's an organization in Marvel Comics that is dedicated to preserving continuity and keeping the time stream in order. And no, it's not the Marvel Wiki, but they might as well be since they're both really, really bad at their jobs. I'm talking about the Time Variance Authority, or TVA for short. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if you've never heard of these guys, because even though quote-unquote huge comic fans might say otherwise, they were never really a big deal in the comics, only being used for a small handful of stories, were more or less forgotten about, and have pretty much only been used as a joke in the modern era. I mean, hell, time travel was abused so much in the Age of Ultron comics that the Avengers straight up broke reality, and the TVA was nowhere to be seen. But okay, yeah. Even though the TVA was never really a huge thing in the comics, people still want to know all about it since they make an appearance in the Loki show on Disney+. And since all you're going to get from most channels is surface level stuff that they read on the Marvel Wiki, which frequently doesn't have all the right information, it's up to folks like me to go through and read the comics so you can get the most accurate stuff out there. So now that I have read through every appearance the TVA has ever made, let me give you the deep dive. But before we jump too far into things, I want to give a big thank you to the sponsor for today's video, Magic Spoon. Now, I love cereal a little too much, and since I've been actively trying to lose weight, that means that my usual favorites have had to go. Honestly, I've been eyeballing Magic Spoon since before they even sponsored me, since their cereal is supposed to taste like all of my childhood favorites, but actually healthy with 0 grams of sugar, 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving, which is also only 140 calories. And I'm happy to confirm that, yeah, it is in fact really tasty. My favorite is definitely the fruity cereal, but I honestly recommend getting the variety pack with their 4 best-selling flavors. With it, fruity, but also cocoa, peanut butter, and frosted. They're keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, low-carb, and GMO-free. Plus, with their 100% happiness guarantee, you have nothing to lose, since if you don't like it for any reason, then they'll just give you a refund, no questions asked. Make sure to click the link below to try out the variety pack or go to magicspoon.com/Drake. Just make sure to use the promo code Drake at checkout for $5 off of any order. You seriously won't regret it. But now, back to the video, or at least after I finish this mugful. The Time Variance Authority kind of made its first appearance in Thor number 371 in 1986, and was created by Walter Simonson and Sal Buscema. I say kind of first appearance because all we got to see was this dude, Agent Peace, who came back to the past and teamed up with Thor. It was a wild book that ended with Thor recharging Peace's time travel device with a lightning strike from a time storm that he whipped up with his hammer, because comics. It wouldn't be until years later, when Simonson was writing the Fantastic Four comic, that the organization was further explored, giving readers a peek into the batshit insanity that is the TVA. From Yu Yu Hakusho to The Good Place, the idea of higher beings managing the cosmos through a bureaucratic system is a pretty popular trope in fiction. I mean, the idea of a specific time travel bureau was even used by Marvel's competitor over at DC for the Legends of Tomorrow TV show. But back when this concept was first introduced to Marvel, it was a relatively fresh idea. Their mission is simple: adhere to the time code, preserve the past, protect the present, and forget the future. As She-Hulk said, it sounds a lot like the GOP's political platform. The TVA is the biggest organization in the Omniverse, and exists within a dimension called the Null Time Zone, a pocket of reality outside of space and time where they observe the entire multiverse and all of the various timelines within it. The institution is led by the Manager-in-Chief, the mysterious Mr. Alternity. But to be honest, there's not much that's known about him, since most of the day-to-day operations are handled by the middle managers who Mr. Alternity delegates work to. The middle management are all clones that are specifically bred for running the TVA. They're modeled after comic writer Mark Gruenwald, who was legendary at Marvel Comics for being a huge continuity nut, and was responsible for creating the official handbook of the Marvel Universe. I mean, hell, the comics themselves explicitly call the TVA the Mark Gruenwalds of time continuity. Since they're all clones, the middle managers are all more or less interchangeable. There's not much of a difference between your Mr. Paradox, Mr. Ouroboros, or Mr. Tesseract. However, the main man that most characters interact with is the senior executive middle manager, Mr. Mobius M. Mobius, but you can call him Moby. This is the middle manager that's in charge of the main Marvel Comics universe, Earth-616. Because of all the shenanigans that go on in the comics, Moby hates dealing with people from 616, especially the Fantastic Four, who are frequently the ones that are most caught up in time travel nonsense. Below the middle managers are the paper pushers of the TVA, the literally faceless chronomonitors. These guys observe every timeline in existence, and whenever a change to the time stream is made, a new chronomonitor and workstation is created to watch over it. As a result, their workplace, the Hall of Chronometry, is endless, being as large as the Omniverse itself. The only universe to exist outside of the TVA's purview, at least for a little bit, is Earth 616, because when the Fantastic Four was captured and put on trial for their time-altering escapades, they broke free and Reed Richards messed with the TVA's computers, which resulted in a huge reality-warping wave that deleted all records of their existence from the system. However, later stories have proved that the TVA got their stuff back in order and are back to including Earth 616 in their infinite jurisdiction. But okay, so what happens when the time stream is messed with? Well, that's when the TVA sends in their peacekeepers, the Justices and their cyborg-cloned Minutemen. The Minutemen are your rank-and-file drones, but the Justices have a lot more flexibility in what they can do, frequently going on solo missions to suss out time discrepancies. All of these time cops also go through a scrambler, a device that rewrites a person's DNA, facial features, fingerprints, dental records, and anything that can be used to identify them. This generic and uniform look helps to prevent corruption of the time stream in case a time traveler ends up in their own past or is killed while out of time. The most famous agent in the TVA is the aforementioned Justice Peace. He's genetically incapable of joking or telling a lie, and is clearly just a parody of Judge Dredd. Outside of being the first character of the TVA that was ever introduced, he's also arguably the most famous member of the organization. Basically, if the TVA is going to show up in a comic, then you can almost always guarantee that Justice Peace will be there as well. On occasion though, the TVA will hire freelance agents, like this guy, Death's Head, who is a character that Marvel smuggled out of the Transformers universe and was enchanted by the Doctor from Doctor Who. This is a wild story that is absolutely true, and I want to make a video all about it. So if that's interesting, then please let me know down there in the comments below. Otherwise, I'm not going to waste my time. But speaking of Doctor Who, the TVA once employed a man named Professor Justin Alphonse Gamble, who was introduced in the 80s as a parody of the Doctor. He even has a bookstore that's bigger on the inside, and fights these robots that yell, "Incinerate," over and over again. These robots are the Incinerators, and they were designed by the TVA to destroy cosmic debris in the time stream. But they did their job a little too well and started to destroy everything in sight. Thankfully, they were taken out. But what about Professor Gamble? Well, it turns out that he's a total creep and sexually harassed several of his trainees, which the TVA did nothing about, leaving it to Cable and Deadpool to stop him. Oh yeah, the TVA also deputized Deadpool once upon a time because, of course they did. As for the standard TVA troops, they do what they can to handle time anomalies by going back in time and resolving the issue as silently as possible. But like, they're also not afraid to just fire huge missiles during fights or directly mess with folks. Like the time when Justice Peace was on a mission and he saw people jaywalking, so he shot them with implants that would prevent them from ever doing it again. Yeah, definitely not messing with the past there. Honestly though, I'm not sure why they need to go through all that effort. I mean, the TVA has been shown to directly affect things out in the world on a pretty large scale, as evidenced by the time that they just straight up turned off the Fantastic Four's powers. But I guess if they always took the easy way out, then we wouldn't have all the fun time cop stories, which would also mean that this video would be a whole lot shorter. But anyway, the TVA will sometimes take suspect prisoner and put them on time trial, which comes in two forms. There's normal crimes where time travel is involved, such as this one where a dude killed a guy in self-defense since he knew that he was going to shoot him in the future because time travel. In that case, jury members were pulled out of time before the crime happened so they would be truly unbiased, and the entire trial was moderated by a standard judge in the present. For bigger infractions, like when She-Hulk tried to bring her dead teammate back to life by telling him how he'd die, the trial is handled at the TVA headquarters and is judged by the middle management. Even their gavels are these little hourglasses, which is super cute. The consequences here are much, much bigger, with people's entire lives, timelines, or even universes potentially being deleted. Yeah, the last thing you want is to be shot with this thing, the retroactive cannon. The retcan makes it to where you never existed. In fact, it's already happened. Have you ever heard of the characters Nightman or Dr. Rocket? Of course not. They were hit by the retcan and instantly erased from time. These presumably beloved Marvel heroes are just gone as if they had never existed. So how does one get in and out of the TVA's headquarters? Well, you can either use the special tech assigned to each of their employees, or you can take the Cross-Time Central Express Railroad, which for all intents and purposes is just a train in space. Just make sure you have your ticket though, or you'll end up like the Fantastic Four, where you have to give up your clothes as compensation, because comics. Now, because the Time Variance Authority exists outside of the multiverse, there should only be one TVA in all of Marvel media. We've seen time and time again that the TVA keeps tabs on every single universe. So, theoretically, the incarnation for the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the same organization as the one from the comics, which I think is pretty neat. Even though they're barely used in the comics, the TVA is still a super fascinating organization that is going to last until the end of time. Even when all time in the Omniverse finally reaches its end, there will be a single employee manning a desk called He Who Remains. In his final moments, He Who Remains created a gift to the past in the form of the Timekeepers, mysterious beings who help guard the time stream. And with that, the heat death of the Omniverse takes hold, and all of reality dies off to be reborn in a new form. If you want to read about the Time Variance Authority for yourself, then definitely do it, but it's a bit difficult since their appearances are scattered all over Marvel Comics over the span of decades. But I highly recommend reading the She-Hulk comic from 2005, whose first few issues directly deal with the time trials. Even outside of the TVA stuff, it is just a great book and one of the best comedy comics that Marvel has ever put out. So if you want to pick up a copy, then I have links to it both physically and digitally in the description down below, and buying it by my link does help out the channel, so help me out and help you out. But if you like this video, then why not consider subscribing, or even watching another one? And hey, if you like this, I have some more videos that are going to be about the Loki show, so maybe like click one of those. I don't actually have a video planned. What the f am I linking to? What videos have I made recently that I would want people to watch? I haven't talked about time travel. But like, hey, you probably like Marvel Comics, so why not learn about how Vision has a dick? Could do Vision's love life. Alright, and if you liked this, then chances are you like weird stuff in Marvel Comics. So why not check out the video that I did on Vision's insanely absurd love life. It is a wild video that I had a lot of fun putting together that not a lot of people watched. So if you enjoy what I do here, you'll probably enjoy that. But anyway, I hope you learned at least a little something new, and hopefully I'll see you next time.